You think AI is free? Think again. Every free ChatGPT interaction, every new DALI image, it all costs billions. But who's actually footing that bill? And more importantly, what do they want in return? This isn't just about tech. It's about the silent investors and geopolitical power plays shaping our future. And you're about to see the hidden price tag. OpenAI is arguably the most successful non-profit in history, if you can even call it that anymore. What started as a move to save humanity from AI has morphed into a complex financial maze that even seasoned investors struggle to navigate. To see how we got here, we have to look at the founding myth of the company. In 2015, the mission was simple: build safe AI and keep it open source, backed by Elon Musk and other Silicon Valley titans. OpenAI was a pure non-profit designed to be a transparent counterweight to the corporate giant. But as early as 2020, 6 years ago, the cracks were showing. The reports highlighted the irony of an Elon Musk-backed organization releasing tools they themselves labeled as too dangerous for the public. The tension between safety and scale was already building. And again, that was 6 years ago. OpenAI wanted to play with the big boys in Silicon Valley. And today, you need money. But how do you get money when you are a non-profit? Investors invest in startups that will someday make them money. And OpenAI was designed to make no profit. That's why they're called non-profit. By 2019, the math simply didn't work. Donations couldn't cover the billions needed for server chips and electricity. So, OpenAI pulled a move that redefined corporate law. On their website, our solution is to create OpenAI LP as a hybrid of a for-profit and non-profit, which we're calling a capped profit company. They basically created a capped profit arm. That arm promises returns for our first round of investors are capped at 100 times their investment. And we expect this multiple to be lower for future rounds as we make further progress. They're basically saying, you invest $1 million, the maximum you will earn from this investment is $100 million. This was marketed as a way to stay true to their mission while playing the high-stakes game of Silicon Valley finance. It's a win-win strategy for them. Fast forward to where we are now, that capped veil is officially lifting. In late 2025, OpenAI restructured again, and this time into a public benefit corporation. A move many see as the final runway before $1 trillion initial public offering. Please, let's take a second here. In 2014, it was a non-profit. In 2019, they created a capped profit arm. And now, they are a public benefit corporation. They obviously claim this preserves their mission. However, critics and lawsuits suggest otherwise. As we sit here in early 2026, the stakes have never been higher. OpenAI is heading to a jury trial this April to face accusations from Elon Musk that it essentially stole a non-profit to build a for-profit empire. OpenAI's projected losses for this year alone is $14 billion. What non-profit loses $14 billion a year? That label is officially a thing of the past. OpenAI isn't just a research lab anymore, it's a financial powerhouse fighting to stay solvent. If you are still here and watching, I promise you we will get to the gist of this. The unseen cost of AI and who's actually paying for all of it. We just had to understand how OpenAI went from a peaceful non-profit to one of the most dangerous companies in the world. If you are new here, welcome to the channel. I am your host. This is the Intel Runner Plus. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel, and let's dive in. Let's start with the Microsoft grip, the strategic alliance. You see, if OpenAI is the brains of this operation, Microsoft is the body that's providing the muscle and the oxygen that keeps the AI alive. But $13 billion doesn't just buy you a seat at the table. It buys you the table itself. Let's look at what Microsoft actually got for its money. On paper, Microsoft's $13.8 billion investment looks like the trade of this century. By late 2025, that initial bet had already yielded a tenfold return, securing Microsoft a 27% ownership stake in OpenAI. It's a massive financial win, but the real value isn't just in the equity, it's in the exclusive tech access that keeps Microsoft stock soaring. And remember this number, 27%. We will get back to this later. Now look closer at the fine print of their next chapter. OpenAI has contracted to purchase an incremental $250 billion of Azure services, and Microsoft will no longer have a right of first refusal to be OpenAI's compute provider. Let me translate that. This isn't just cash sitting in a bank account. OpenAI has officially contracted to purchase $250 billion in Azure services. In many ways, Microsoft is its biggest customer. They give OpenAI the money, and OpenAI immediately hands it back to pay for the massive compute power required to keep ChatGPT running. However, this defining alliance is starting to show its teeth. New court filings offer an inside look at one of the most consequential relationships in tech. Previously undisclosed emails, messages, slide decks, reports, and deposition transcripts reveal how Microsoft pursued, rebuffed, backed OpenAI at various moments over the past decade, ultimately shaping the course of the lab that launched the generative AI era. While OpenAI is trying to claw back some independence by ending Microsoft's right of first refusal on compute providers, the long-term implications remain. Microsoft has essentially built a fail-safe, ensuring they keep the IP rights and the data pipeline even as the partnership faces increasing public and legal scrutiny. So, is OpenAI an independent pioneer, or has it become a highly specialized department inside Microsoft? As the compute bills climb to the hundreds of billions, the answer becomes clearer. In the world of AGI, whoever owns the servers owns the future. Let's jump to the silent partners. Let's unmask the hidden hands. You have waited enough. Get ready to find out the real owners, because while Microsoft is the name you see in the headlines, they are far from the only ones with a seat at the table. I left a little clue for you earlier in the episode. We said Microsoft owns 27% of OpenAI. What about the rest? Now that this is a public benefit corporation, what about the rest? To reach this scale Sam Altman envisions, OpenAI has had to look far beyond Microsoft, Redmond, Washington, Silicon Valley, and even the US itself. They have tapped into a global syndicate of venture capital and state-backed wealth that is quietly reshaping who actually owns the future of intelligence. Take a look at this report by WebPro News. It starts with a $50 billion gamble. According to people familiar with the discussion, OpenAI is targeting funds such as Abu Dhabi's MGX and Saudi Arabia's public investment funds. Building on prior investments, the round potentially valuing OpenAI at $800 billion or higher would dwarf previous financings and signal a deepening reliance on Gulf money for AI infrastructure. Let me translate that. In Sam Altman's high-stakes push for AI supremacy, the dude is going to sovereign wealth funds in the Middle East. We're talking about massive stakes from Abu Dhabi and Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, all to fuel an infrastructure build-out that makes traditional tech investments look like a pocket change. Then there is the venture vault. In October 2025, OpenAI reached a $500 billion valuation following a $6.6 billion secondary share sales. This wasn't just a corporate funding. It allowed employees to cash out to who's who of institutional giants, including Thrive Capital, SoftBank, and T. Rowe Price. Obviously, Saudi Arabia and the UAE as well. These players, along with the employees, now hold a combined 47% in the for-profit group, With Microsoft from earlier owning 27%, the non-profit OpenAI is left with just 26%. Do you see all of this mess? From non-profit to cap profit arm and a public benefit corporation with legal gymnastics and lawsuits everywhere. If you were Sam Altman, do you pause and take a breath to put out the fires around you? No, he goes to Stargate. And I hear you asking, what the hell is Stargate? Well, the Stargate Project, a $500 billion infrastructure alliance announced at the White House. This isn't just a check, it's a commitment to build massive network of data centers across the US, while partners like SoftBank, Oracle, and Nvidia providing the hardware and the capital. OpenAI is getting $18 billion from this deal. And here's the most important part. It's essentially building a physical fortress for its models, funded by partners that often fly under the public radar. When you add it all up, OpenAI isn't just a tech company. It's a global financial project. And as we will see in the next section, when this much money and infrastructure are on the line, the boundary between private company and national interest begin to disappear. And this takes us to the next point. Let's talk about the geopolitical chessboard. AI as a global power play. For years, AI was marketed as a tool for creativity and productivity. And while you were using it to write poems for your dog, the world was moving. In 2026, the mask has slipped. AI is no longer just a software. It's a strategic weapon. As the race for intelligence supremacy heats up, OpenAI has found itself at the very center of a global geopolitical chessboard where the players aren't just CEOs, but world leaders and military generals. According to eSecurity Planet, integration began in earnest in June 2025. OpenAI officially launched OpenAI for Government, anchored by a $200 million pilot contract with the US Department of Defense. The Defense Department will use OpenAI for Government to explore the use of AI in administration and security. They add security at the end thinking we will not notice. This wasn't just for spreadsheets. The contract specifically tasks OpenAI with developing frontier AI capabilities to address national security challenges in both administrative and war-fighting domains. The non-profit that once feared its tech was too dangerous is now a primary contractor for the world's most powerful military. It's not just the US. Check out this report from the Atlantic Council. In early 2026, the Atlantic Council warned that we have entered the battle of the stacks. The US is now actively pushing American AI exports as a diplomatic tool to counter China's influence, turning large language models into a form of digital sovereignty. In this multipolar world, the country that controls the most advanced AI doesn't just win the tech race, they set the global standard for truth, law, and power. OpenAI saw Trump using AI as an export tool, so they themselves are leaning into this role. In their recent proposal for the US AI Action Plan, they said we must ensure that people have freedom of intelligence. I love how they always lead with freedom. Anything you want to pass, stick freedom to it and the world respects you. By which we mean the freedom to access and benefit from AI as it advances, protected from both autocratic powers that would take people's freedoms away and the layers of laws and bureaucracy that would prevent our realizing them. I know you're waiting for me to translate. They explicitly called for a strategy to protect American AI from autocratic powers. This is very, very important, because they aren't just asking for funding here, they are lobbying for a national champion status, arguing that the federal government must seize the infrastructure opportunity to ensure the intelligence age remains under democratic control. Ha 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 ha. So, when a private entity becomes a pillar of national defense and foreign policy, the lines between corporate interests and state power vanish. OpenAI is no longer just a company, it's a geopolitical asset. But as we look at the final piece of this puzzle, we have to ask, while billionaires and the governments fight for control, who is actually paying the physical and human price for this revolution? And this is what the whole episode is about, the costs of AI. Let's dive in. The true cost beyond the balance sheet. We've talked about billions of dollars, military contracts, and global power plays. But there is a cost to OpenAI's future that doesn't appear on a balance sheet. A cost that's measured in jobs, natural resources, and the very fabric of our society. In a white paper published by the World Economic Forum in early 2026, titled Four Futures for Jobs in the New Economy, AI and Talent in 2030. Human cost is already visible. The views of business executives on the impact of AI vary too. Globally, about 54% expect AI to displace existing jobs within the year. We are no longer just talking about automation. We are entering an era of agentic displacement, where entry-level careers are vanishing, leaving a workforce that is increasingly divided. Then there is the physical toll on the planet. In a report by the Sustainable Agency titled The Environmental Impact of Generative AI, to keep the servers cool and the models running, OpenAI's infrastructure consumes resources at a rate we can barely comprehend. A short conversation of 20 to 50 questions and answers with ChatGPT, GPT-3 here we're talking about, costs half a liter of fresh water for cooling. Scale that up. And the AI industry's carbon footprint in 2025 matched the total emission of New York City. But who bears this burden? The reports are clear. The environmental costs are often outsourced to the global south in a new form of digital colonialism. While at home, AI is projected to consume 22% of all US household electricity by 2028. We are essentially subsidizing the intelligence age with our climate and our power grids. You see, OpenAI began with the mission to ensure AGI benefits all of humanity. But as we've seen, the path to that future is paved with billionaire investments, military interests, and a massive environmental price tag. The unseen cost isn't just a number, it's the world we're building while we aren't looking. So let me ask you this. As we have built a financial fortress, a military asset, and a resource sink in the name of general intelligence, if the price is our privacy, our environment, and the autonomy of our workforce, is the trade-off worth it? I'll be in the comments listening to your opinions. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. This is the Interrunner Plus, and see you in the next episode.